All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the SquidTalk podcast. Huge guest today, Mitt, CEO of Mitt Group, big entrepreneur. I also feel like he was probably the first entrepreneur in the social media space, at least the first young one, kind of documenting your journey, giving life tips, success tips. But you also take a different approach, and you kind of not just like money secrets, but people secrets. That's one thing I've noticed, at least when I first started watching your stuff. It was a lot of like how to get people to respect you, right? How to have more impact with what you say. So I think that's all very, very important, not just in getting people to like you, but business. But one of the first things I wanted to get into was, you're 28 years old, right?
Yep.
So you have this big successful business, been on social media for a while now. What made you hit that record button? And then we'll go into exactly like what kind of impact that's had on your personal career and your business career.
So first thing is, I felt like I had pretty good business insight, but the one thing that is important to me is like, you're not going to take advice from someone, even if the advice is good, unless you know it's credible. You know that they've done something. And so the first thing for me is like, I need to go out and do something that's credible. And so I built, it was in the first year of me building Mitt Group, and we're having success. And that was in 2020, right when...
So it was 8 years ago.
No, in 2020.
Oh, shit. No, wait. Yeah. So 3 years ago.
3 years ago,
God, feels like forever.
And it does feel like that with COVID. So it was like during COVID, right? And start the company, and we start taking off, and we're being super successful. And that was in the time when TikTok first came out, and you had Addison Rae and all these people dancing and everything. And I kept seeing Gary Vee talking about TikTok is the next thing. TikTok is the next thing. Like, that's going to be huge. And everyone was kind of joking around and making fun of people who were on it. And it was kind of like this running joke. And I remember vividly being embarrassed that I made a Twitter back when Twitter first came out. They're like, why do you have a Twitter? Right? And everything was a joke or was embarrassing when it's first starting. So I was like, this has to be big. So I'm not going to dance in front of a video like them. That's not my style. But I was like, what if there was somebody on there that just talked about business clips, like, or topics like psychology or money or finance or crypto or whatever the case may be? Like, would there be an audience for it? Would people like that information? And would they even like me? And I'm sure you've seen this with social media, is you just never know how people are going to react to you.
Yeah.
And
you got to try it.
You got to try it. And what's interesting too is you could have an audience that loves you, and you make a new video, and there's one word that's said 20 seconds in that triggers all these crazy comments, and they misinterpret the entire video just because of one thing. So I was like, you know what? Like, and I had a Tesla at the time, and every time I'd charge it, I'm like, I'm just going to do a quick like 30-second thing. I didn't know how to edit. I still don't edit any of my clips. I have a team for it. So I was like, screw it. Like, if I say something perfect for 30 seconds, I'm just going to upload it, and let's just see what happens. And about 10th or 12th video, I was going to dinner with some friends, and I looked right when I was paying the tab, my phone was going crazy, and it had like 300,000 views. I was like, whoa.
So you kind of saw that success, or at least you got like that little bit of reward right at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, just instant reward. Cool. But the thing was I wasn't trying to become this famous person. I wasn't trying to like sell some course or do something online, like nothing. I was just like, people keep telling me, they're like, man, you should like do something, blah, blah, blah. Or I was like, okay. So I just made some TikTok videos, and I kind of ran with it. And that first year I got up to like 20, 30,000. And it was that pretty much a full year after I had it. I remember I was about to go on vacation. I was taking my family on a trip somewhere, and I was at this hotel. I was in Houston, and I was about to run a meeting. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make a quick TikTok video. And I was doing them 3-4 times a week. And I made one video, and that one video went to like 1.4 million. It took my TikTok to 100,000. A business
from 20 to 100,000 or 30 to 100,000?
Yes, in pretty much like 2-3 days. And a Business Insider editor reached out, emailed me, wanted to do a piece or whatever on me. I jumped on the call. They loved it. They're like, this is great, but you have to send us every bit of your financials to prove this. And I said, okay. So I sent them all of my I had to prove
personal financials or company financials?
Both.
Oh,
like
wow.
Everything. I had to prove that I was actually broke in the years I said I was broke.
Yeah.
So I sent it with like $12 in my bank account and like whatever it was. And then what it was now, my investment and everything. Because if it was not right.
Oh, it makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of fraudsters out there. I like how you touched on the no course thing, because I feel like almost a majority of TikTok entrepreneurs are selling you a course.
Yeah, I'm not even against courses.
Yeah.
I think if someone knows something and they're fantastic at it, like investing in your knowledge is important. But if that's the only thing that made you successful, it's probably not admirable.
Sure, 100%. You got to have success first. Though. I like how you had that mindset of, I'm not just gonna bullshit if I have nothing to offer.
Yeah.
I kind of started on the opposite end of the spectrum. I was like, well, I think and I hope I'm gonna be successful. I have a good feeling about it. I'm confident, but I'm nobody yet. So I was like, let me document my journey, you know?
But that's a cool way to do it because you weren't trying to be something you're not. You're like, hey guys, like I'm on this journey to start this e-commerce business.
Yeah.
Like, let's see what happens.
Yeah, I never claimed to be Mark Cuban. But yeah, some people get really mad. I'm curious, like, did you experience any sort of criticism both in the comments and in your personal life? Like people in my comments, not anymore really, but people used to be like, who the fuck is this guy?
Right.
And I kind of like how you said, when you start something, it always happens. Everything is cringy when you start. Everything is embarrassing when you start.
Yeah.
Like you could be Kobe Bryant going from being one of the greatest basketball players of all time to going into film.
Right.
And people will tell you you're an idiot, right? Just like they did. And then he was, killer at that too. So I'm curious, did any of your friends or family members disapprove?
Yeah. So I had a couple people early on that were, so it was more so right before I started. So I remember a couple months before I was debating on making a YouTube and making a TikTok and everything. And I remember posting on my story, should I make business content? And I had kind of forgotten that nobody had known all this business stuff I'd done. Like they didn't know I started a company. They didn't know I'd been doing sales and leadership and management.
Like friends back home?
Yeah, like they knew, the close ones did. But the people that went to high school with me, they knew I had a business sense, but they didn't know this because I wasn't telling the world. So I'd post like, hey, should I make this stuff? And I had a lot of people voting no. And they're like, no, why would you do that? Like, what have you done?
That's crazy.
And I didn't take it personal, but I was like, how would they know?
Yeah.
And so I just trusted my gut and started making it. And the one thing I noticed is I got a lot more support from people that I grew up with and that I knew and that had already previously followed me on Instagram, because I don't think, I think with anything with social media, you're always going to get haters, but I was just being authentic and I wasn't trying to get something out of it. Like I was giving just, hey, this is how it worked for me. This is this, blah, 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 take it or leave it. And I think that they could maybe feel that and they're like, oh, you know what? I actually like this. This is pretty good. When you go super viral, what happens is the video reaches people that typically wouldn't watch what maybe you and I make content wise. So you get a person that doesn't have an ounce of business mindset.
There's not that many out there.
Right.
Like young guys that are into that shit.
Right.
So I totally get what you mean.
So when it goes to a wide audience of 1 million people in a viral video, you're going to get 20, 30% that has never seen any videos like this. And they're just going to have a random comment and they don't have any context. So you can't take it personal.
100%. I love that you said that. I personally think that getting shit on in this journey, whenever you go on social media or start a business or want to become a professional athlete, I think it's good. I think it's necessary. Yeah. It's almost like a wall. And if you're not willing to at least try and climb it, then you don't deserve to see the other side, in my opinion, And if it was easy, everyone would do it.
And in a weird way, it's your art. Your art is supposed to be interpreted, and it helps you learn how humans perceive things. And what I've learned from making so much content and what I've learned from mastering sales and teaching sales and scaling a business is how consumers, how people of all different age groups, backgrounds, religions, everything perceive you and perceive a person and what triggers their brain. And I learned how simple people are is people are moved by very simplistic things. So for example, my best or your best piece of content that is so niche and detailed that if you're in your specific business could change that person's life, many times won't do that well. But something that anybody can interpret, even though you're like, let's say someone hasn't touched e-commerce or business and they just care about whatever.
Girls.
Cool. They only care about girls and you're posting about business. If you talk about maybe a transaction or a sell and how you convince this and you kind of give an example of your pitch of how you did it, he may not know how to do all that, but he can judge how you did it. or what he think would happen, or when he tried that, how you'd interpret it. So the key that I learned is the audience has to be able to have an opinion about it. And that's why the best speakers, the best politicians, the best business leaders, and the best form of genius is able to take extremely complex ideas and make them so simple that anyone, including someone that's not in the industry, can interpret it and have an opinion over it.
Sure.
And great. So you learn it. One, it keeps you accountable, and people check you and say these crazy things. But you go, why do they say that? Did I present it the wrong way? Could I have said it better? Is this just kind of part of the process and this person wasn't going to understand anything in the first place? So you just don't take it personal and take it as real life feedback, and you'll start cultivating that audience and teaching them who you are so that you can earn that respect, like you're saying.
Yeah, dude, that's a great point. I think yeah, you need to break it down into a way where everyone can understand it if you want to have the same sort of effect and the biggest reach possible. Like I made a video, I think it was last night, about cutting people out of your life. And I said, you throw out the moldy fruit, right? Like you open up your blueberries or your raspberries, and if you see a couple pieces that are molding, like you don't eat those, right? You throw them away.
Right.
And you have to do that with people in your life.
Exactly.
Do you feel like you had to cut anyone out, or were you pretty like blessed to the point where no one really got to that point where you had to?
Oh yeah, I have the gift of goodbye. Like, and even in business, right? We, unfortunately have to fire people, but
it's true. I haven't had to deal with that yet, really, honestly.
You will eventually.
For sure.
It's one of the most important things for the company, for you as a leader, and most importantly, oddly, them if they're not in the right position. But the thing that you realize, and to go off what you're saying, is that if you have the wrong people in your life and you allow them, they will self-sabotage everything in their life. They will mess up the team. They'll mess up your company. They'll mess up everything. And one thing I've noticed is, like, as you elevate and go to these next levels, you scale your company, it's going to take a new set of individuals. Or those current people are going to have to level up. And they oftentimes don't. And they're not designed to. People are typically who they are.
Yeah. Well, okay, so that's great. Lead into the next question, which is how many employees do you currently have right now?
So total in the organization is around 40 to 45.
Nice.
One thing we've been kind of shifting towards is it sounds cool to have a really massive team if they're producing at scale. It's much better to have less people who are more talented with more output, which helps the total organization be more efficient. So what we've kind of done over the last 6 months is realize it's like, okay, who is the highest producers? How do we allocate more resources towards them? And how do we find more and more people like them? And this includes finding top talent, and then most importantly, retaining that talent, cultivating it, and help them move up and develop and grow in their career. Because if they don't have something to grow into, they'll grow out of your company.
Yeah, 100%. Do you feel like that, it's a two-part question. Do you feel like you've always had that entrepreneurial drive and on top of that ability to be a leader? Or did that kind of come later in life? I know you said you played sports for a while.
Yeah.
Right? That's a big proponent, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so I always felt like I was a natural entrepreneur, and I always, I think, was a natural leader. But just being a good leader does not make you a great business operator or CEO.
Yeah.
And what I learned, especially early on in managing, was I was a fantastic leader. People liked working with me. They respected me, but I was a horrible manager. And learning how to, one, operate a business, much less manage people and be an actual manager, is a completely different beast that takes a lot of time and energy to be able to maintain. So for example, let's say like I work for you and you're my manager and I think you're awesome. You're a great guy. You have amazing vision. You're cool. I love hanging out with you. I love working for you. I think you're great. But let's say that we have a training once a day, and at 9 a.m., we're going to do it. You're like, hey, tomorrow we're going to do it at 9 a.m. I show up, perfect. Then let's say at 8:55, you're like, hey, Grant, something came up. Let's go ahead and do 11. So we're like, okay, we'll do 11. And then the next day it's 12. And the next day it's 8. And the next day it's 7. Now what happens is you're still a great leader. I still like you the same amount. but we have no system in operation. And because it's all over the place, because your schedule isn't consistent, the company's schedule is not consistent, we don't have a continuous flow in the operation, meaning I'm missing out times that I could be in appointments, selling, talking to consumers, talking to whatever, working on whatever job I specifically have. But now I'm missing hour gaps and delaying my schedule, and you as well, not because you're a bad leader, but because you're a bad manager.
Yeah.
So a great manager goes, hey, every day at this time, we're going to meet for 30 minutes from 9 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. every single day, no matter what. You're going to build your schedule around it. I'm going to build my schedule around it. What I want you to do is to come prepared with all the necessary questions that you have so we can go through it during that time, set the agenda for the day, and let you work.
Interesting. Do you feel like, I think that's a great point. And to be honest, I've never really thought about that, but I think you're absolutely right. And I guess I even probably struggle with that myself as a leader in my business. I'm the type of guy that's like, I just want to find the best talent, right? Like find studs, not just for whatever they're working on in the business, but also in real life. Like our creative director started as, I could tell from day one, this guy was a fucking hoss, right? Started as the photo shoot guy, did some cool pictures for us, became the creative director. Now he's our executive creative director. He's 22, black belt in jiu-jitsu, owns his own jiu-jitsu training academy like over in Tampa.
Nice.
Stud, right?
Yeah.
But I operate on the mindset of like, okay, I hired you for a reason. You know what you're doing. I don't want to tell you what to do. I don't want to micromanage you whatsoever. If anything, like I want you to let me know what you need from me. Say, hey, Lucas, I need you to allocate this many resources for me, or can you look for some models, or can you get one of the other guys in the business to set this up so I can do my job best? And so I think I need to work on my managing ability a little bit. Do you think the CEO or the main guy needs to do managing as well, or it's probably best to separate those two?
Well, it depends because, for example, so CEO would typically manage the head of operations, head of finance, head of sales. Mm-hmm. So he's managing those three people. Then those people are going down to the lower level leaders and, the employees, whether it's the sales reps, project coordinators, basic accountants, whatever the case may be. So the CEO's job is to basically build the machine. And the better I get, the more or less involved I am into the day-to-day operation. The busier I am, that's typically when we're scaling, we're growing when I'm needed. When that engine is built, I can pull away and my phone doesn't go off. That's when I know I'm doing the right stuff. If my phone's not getting blown up and I'm not getting questions and this and that and this fire and that fire and deals are rolling in, that means I've done my job as a CEO. So there's nothing better than hiring smart people and getting out of their way. And some people are managed like that. You're going to hire certain studs where you just got to provide resources for them, be them for them. As long as there's mutual expectations with everything, then you're fine, right? It just depends because each person's going to need something different.
Mm-hmm. And how much of an impact do you think your personal social skills have played as your ability to be a good leader in success in sales? Because I'm sure like when you started, you were not only the guy doing the finances and creating the schedules and everything, but also going out and doing sales yourself, right?
Doing everything.
Like when I started my business, I was packing orders every day and convincing people to buy it, right?
Yeah.
So how much of an impact do you think, like, I guess first question, have you always been a very social guy? Have you always been someone good and good at talking to people? And how has that played a role with your success?
So, I've always been a people person. I thought I was an extrovert. I realized I'm an introvert that can be extroverted.
Really? Interesting.
Meaning that, like, if I go to a party, event, I have my battery and it slowly drains. And then when I'm done, I'm done. Yeah. And then I recharge alone or with, like a few group of people, something small. But I always felt very comfortable talking. I was a guy that you find out you have a presentation 5 minutes from now, I get up and give some speech off the top of my head and somehow get an A. So I was that guy.
Yeah.
And I will say it's like being likable and being relatable and empathetic. And I think the biggest thing, one of my favorite sayings is people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so if your people know, it's just, we go back to TikTok, right? I see people so much on social media and they're making these videos or they're posting stuff to be famous, or to sell something, or to get something. And when they're just fully authentically themselves, even if they're weird, even if they're unique, even if they're different, people just gravitate to it. And if you look, you mentioned like Alex Hormozy, he's super unique. He doesn't try to act like he's this super genius guy. He's dressed up like a lumberjack almost every day. He's got a big beard. He's got a plaid thing.
But I think that's part of his sales.
I agree.
I think in his situation, he's trying to sell to a specific group of people.
Sure.
And he's like, what do young guys like? They like the gym. They like money. So I'm going to look like this big jack guy with success.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I don't think he just wears the beater just because he likes wearing beaters. I do think there's a little bit of strategy involved in that.
There has to be something. But it's just at the end of the day, like, it's just him. Like, he's having a conversation. He knows this stuff like the sky is blue.
Yeah.
And so you can just tell the difference. And I think when you're an authentic person, you truly care about the people that you're working with. You believe in something, like what you've done with your brand thus far is like, we were just talking about this. You're super authentic and unique with your things. They saw you building it from scratch, packaging it, figuring out, I don't know what the hell, dude, I'm going to figure this out. And so people respected it for it because they're like, oh, this is how I would do it. This is how he's no better than me. Wait, now he's doing all this? That means I can do it. I like this guy's product.
I think, and I learned this lesson a little later in life because I used to be a huge, not people person, people pleaser, right? And I kind of learned towards midway through college, the more I try and earn someone's approval, the less I'm going to get it.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, like I just started acting like, okay, it's my life. I don't give a fuck what the people in my fraternity think, what my friends think, what my parents think. And I just started doing whatever I wanted to do. I started saying whatever I wanted to say with absolutely zero regard for if people were going to like it or not. Yeah. And interestingly enough, like I started getting a lot of friends and like a lot of respect for my friends. And then I was like fraternity president and like the business and the social media. Things just like started to work out when I stopped trying at all to impress people.
Love it.
And so I think it's like innately as humans, we sense a little bit of fraud in your character when you try. It's like someone sucking up to you.
Yeah.
They might even have a lot to offer. Like you might bring me a great deal, but if you're sucking up to me, I just don't want to be around you.
You're like, what do you want?
Yeah, exactly. It immediately makes you feel like there's something going on behind the scenes, right? Yeah. That's why they're acting like that.
I love that.
So, well, how big of an impact do you think actually posting has had on your current business? I know you were saying it was successful already.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's helped, right?
It's helped in the sense that it's helped us recruit really talented people because, you know, I'm talking about business and sales and whatever the case may be. And we get 20, 30 emails, like long 3, 4, 5 paragraph emails a day.
I'll work for free.
We get a lot of those. I get a lot of those. But then also it's just like, hey, like I saw you have this company. I've been in sales. I'm really interested in working for you guys, and we'll interview, and then they'll end up becoming unbelievable sales reps. So it's helped us attract talent, retain talent, motivate people to want to come work for the company and have a really good opportunity. So I think that's big. And one thing too with social media is that a lot of times you don't know what you're going to do with it. You don't know what business you're going to start, what opportunities are going to come. But if you cultivate and build an audience that respects you, likes you, that tells their friends about you, there's going to be a long-term return for 100%. everyone involved. Your content's going to get better. You may end up starting a new company that blows up. I call it the Kardashian effect, right?
Yeah.
Kylie Jenner is not a better business. At least maybe she is now, but she was not a better CEO or entrepreneur than anybody running a $30 million business. Yet at 19, she had almost $1 billion company.
Yeah.
Why is that? She had the attention, and yes, she had a generation of work done by her mom, but it doesn't matter. She won. And so that teaches you about life is that the best businesses don't win. It's the businesses that people know.
Yeah, I think that brings up a great point, and that's that. I don't know about you, but my parents growing up always said, be careful what you post.
Right.
Right. It was, if anything, it was like, stay away from social media. It's dangerous. Put yourself at risk, right? The more you tell the world about yourself, the more you make yourself a target. And I fully agree with that. But I also think in today's day and age, similarly to like, if you stand up on a chair in the middle of a big crowd, everyone will look at you. but the bad people will look at you and the good ones will too.
100%.
And so you will have to deal with that criticism or hate or even people trying to pull you down, knock you off the chair, right? But you're also going to get a lot of other entrepreneurs and like-minded people and ambitious guys that are like, wait, that's kind of cool. I want to go up there too.
Yeah.
And so I think it's worth it. I personally think, I'm curious your opinion on this. I think anyone in today's day and age, if they are an entrepreneur, or maybe not necessarily creating a business, but you're creative in some way. Maybe you're making music, you're a DJ, or you code for companies, you do photo shoots, anything that's creative and not working for somebody else. I think you absolutely should start posting. And you don't need thousands or hundreds of thousands of followers. Like, you can have a great impact off of having 500 cool people that really like you.
That love you.
Right?
Yeah.
All you need is like one good connection to change your life, honestly.
Just one.
And so, I don't know. I think that's huge. But I'm curious, what kind of sacrifices did you have to make? Like, being an entrepreneur from an early age, do you feel like you had to maybe hold off on some of the fun? Or did you have a good balance with all that?
No, I mean, I pretty much closed myself off the world for 2 years. So I played junior college football in Long Beach, California, and Brooklyn, New York. I got Division II offers after that, and I was kind of to the point where, you know, unless I'm going to be the next Drew Brees, like, there's no point. Like,
quarterback?
Yeah, I was quarterback.
Nice, there you go. Sweet.
And but I was like, man, I'm an entrepreneur. I want to do this. And I remember being in one of the most uncomfortable periods of my life was when I was in New York. And I mean, we were small in this podcast studio, basically. They had 2 bunk beds right there, 2 bunk beds right there, and another bed right here. So I had 5 teammates in like this small of a little environment and living on like probably $100. I remember a couple times I would jump the subway and I'd look because there'd be undercover cops. And one time they caught me, but I talked my way out of it. They'll take you to jail because I didn't have enough money to get in the subway half the time. But anyways, I moved back to Houston and decided to transfer to U of H, but none of my credits were accepted. So on orientation, I'm coming into University of Houston as supposedly a senior, but they're telling me on day one that, hey, like, nothing is accepted. You're now a freshman. So I'm like, this isn't good. I had a sales job lined up. I get a call the next day that company is closing down their Houston branch because of Hurricane Harvey, and it messed up all their operations, and they're moving to Austin. I can't afford to move to Austin. Now, at the same time, I moved back in with my mom. My parents had been divorced at that time, so she didn't have an extra room, so I'm sleeping on her couch. So I'm 22 years old. I'm sleeping on my couch. I was supposed to be a senior in college at U of H. Now I'm a freshman, and the sales job that I had fell through. So at that same time, I'm 22. That's pretty much the same time that everyone's graduating college. So as I'm going through this, and I had all the same goals and stuff I had now, I'm getting on Instagram, seeing every one of my friends post pictures of them with a graduation cap, that they just got this internship, that they just got this. I had a girlfriend at the time that was convinced I was going to do nothing in life. She was further along with me in college. She had an internship at this place in New York. So I'm hearing a mouthful about how I'm not going to be this and how I'm all talk and all these different things. So I'm at the lowest point of my life at this point. But what I did when I was in New York is I would sit in a Barnes & Noble, like, because it was just my escape. I'd go sit there, and I never liked reading, and I would just sit there and read for 2-3 hours. And after about a year being there, by the time I moved back, even though all that stuff happened, I kind of just felt at peace. One, because there was some crazy stuff in Brooklyn that I experienced that I can't even say on a podcast. And so I was at my mom's house. Yeah, I was on her couch, but I didn't have to walk a half a mile carrying heavy clothes and go to the laundromat and do that and come back. I just had it right there. You know, my mom's house was peaceful. It was a blessing. And I could Uber all around town and get instant deposits and make money. And while I'm doing that, I'm just applying for sales jobs. Because my plan was, I'm going to get a sales job. I'm going to find a way to make 6 figures. I'll figure out the college thing. I ended up dropping out. I'm going to save up all of my income because I'm staying on my mom's couch and I'm only paying for, you know, food and stuff like that in my car note. And I saved up all of it. And I was like, I'm going to get a nice apartment in downtown Houston. That was my main goal. And a year later, I did it. I lived downtown Houston, overlooking the Minute Maid Park. And I was like, man, this is awesome. I made 120 grand. Couldn't believe it. And then I ended up saving, there's an article on this that, remember the Business Insider, the thing I was telling you about that she saw me, when they broke down all my finances, I had to prove all these things. I broke down and had a system for saving up money, which ultimately helped me start Mitt Group. And so doing that, I pulled away from everyone. I was just full focus 7 days a week, nonstop to do this because I don't have family money. I didn't have any investors. I didn't have any mentors. I still wish I had this like incredible mentor. I would say I created my own through people online and the best entrepreneurs and their books and everything. And so I had to dig myself out of that. And it was that experience that made me so damn tough and resilient, because running a business, especially when you have employees and you deal with people betraying you, you deal with lawsuits, you deal with people that you got to fire, conflicts with people, issues with installers, with operations, you name it, it's going to happen. You have to be so mentally tough. You got to be like this, perfectly poised and calm, because if you show an ounce of weakness, they're pouncing on you.
Yeah, dude, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that was one of my questions too. Have you ever had to literally dig yourself out of a pit, right? And I like to look at it kind of like in Batman, right? You know, when he's in that big hole, night rises and he has to climb out. Yep. When you're in that period of darkness, you really only have two options. Like it really can't get shittier. But if you can figure out a way to climb out, you're going to be stronger than ever.
Another level.
And I think this is like the biggest thing for our podcast, like this podcast right here, why it's called SquidTalk, is it's so easy to look at anyone, whether they're a successful entrepreneur, an actor, an athlete, a musician, anyone who has crazy wild success, and just automatically assume, oh, it's always been that way for them. Mm-hmm. But in reality, I would actually not only say most stories have some part like that, some pit, some period of darkness, but you respect those guys more. Yeah. Right? Like and you're like a good looking guy, you're doing well now. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are probably like, oh, this guy just always had it figured out, right? Mm-hmm. But that makes you seem human, and it shows your character like building through that, right? You know, trudging through those murky waters. And I made a video on this like 2 days ago. It's doing really well. It's at like 800, 900K views right now. You know Matt Rife? Mm-hmm. So Matt Rife is like, the dude's living right now. He's like the king, right? I personally don't think he's that funny, but the dude's like good looking guy, dating the hottest girls in the world. Every girl drools over him. Making bread, famous, comedian. Like you look at that guy and you're like, this guy has it figured out. And then I just found out 4 days ago, that he had been a like fucking D-list comedian for 10 years. Everyone made fun of him. He was like this skinny dweeb. And it's so easy to look at a guy like that and be like, oh, he has the sauce, right? In reality, he didn't.
And he almost quit.
Yeah. Did you ever have a almost quitting moment, or were you like, I'm going to figure this out and it's going to happen?
So I think I felt feelings like that during playing college football in college and all that. That was, I think, the really hardest. Like I've faced a lot of obstacles in running a business, been through hell and back, but I'm fully committed. Like I'll bet the house. Yeah. I'll bet, like literally, I would go move back in and sleep on someone's couch and in 6 months be a millionaire. Like I am all in. I 100%. Know it. I felt like that in college, and in that moment, like that I was explaining about, where I'm out of U of H and I'm finding all these bad things happen. I'm sitting in my car like, what the hell do I do? Like, this is bad. You know, I'm 22 years old. I got to figure this out. I'm a grown ass man now. Yeah. And I think that's the part where I was like, this is my plan. This is what I'm going to do. And I went full force. Same thing starting the company, same thing scaling. You know, each level that you scale, it comes with a new set of challenges and obstacles. And we've gone through 3 of them that could have took us out. And each time I delivered. And it was just full focus. There was times when every week mattered, every day mattered, and you just figured it out.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people, they automatically assume that guys that have found success have the answer, whether it's Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos. They think, oh, they just know what to do in every situation. That's totally not the case. I think it's like more money, more problems, the famous saying, right? As you become bigger, more successful, you have bigger problems. When you first start the business, it's, how do I convince someone to buy this? That's your first problem. Right. Or what do I even sell, right? I guess the second problem would be, how do I convince someone to buy this? And then 10 years later, the problem is, okay, how do I launch this company and make it public, right? You don't know the answer to those problems. They're all new. You've never been faced with something like that before. But what you do have is the confidence from all the experiences before that. So I'm sure like you're experiencing new challenges every day, every week, every month, every year, that you're like, I don't know what the answer is, but I will find the answer. And you've built that confidence through your experience. Right? So this is a question that I ask everyone. I started this 3 episodes ago. I ask every guest, what's one thing you hold to be true that everyone else would surely disagree with?
Oh, that's a good question. So one thing that I hold to be true that everyone would disagree with. The first thing that comes to mind is when you're trying to solve a problem or you want to do something and you're trying to figure out how to do it, not for everyone, but for almost everyone in the world, the first instinct or thought that comes to your brain is almost always wrong. And the reason why it's almost always wrong is if that's the first answer that instantaneously, I mean, like, let's say we have a cash flow problem. How do we fix it? And you're like, well, what about this? Or AI is booming. What if we did this? If that first instinct is usually what everyone else would think. And everyone typically thinks one-dimensionally. I like get onto my managers and leaders in the company about this so much, where like, for example, I had an operations manager. They had an issue with some projects or whatever, and we had a bunch of sales reps in that thing. And there was a problem or something like that. I can't remember what the details were. And he answered it one level. And he goes like, here it was. So on projects, sometimes you have adders. An adder is something extra involved in the project that is not solar. Okay, so what was added was a main panel upgrade. And this main panel upgrade increases the price of the system $2,500. But in this case, we had the installation company cover that $2,500 because they didn't tell us in a timely manner. So we thought it was unfair. So if they weren't covering it, that would drop the sales rep's commission 3 or 4%. So when the rep was like, hey, so what happens with this NPU? Reagan said, this is going to happen. They're going to handle it. So obviously the first question that they were going to have after was, but is this going to affect my commission? All he had to do is, hey, we talked to the installer. They said that they're going to cover it. Because they're going to cover it, the price per watt will stay exactly the same, meaning this will not affect your commission, but you will still need to redo the contract with the homeowner, but everything else pay-wise would be exactly the same. And what would the rep said? Oh, okay. So you got to answer the question 3, 4, 5 levels in advance. And the same thing when you're solving a problem. If you only solve for the first reactionary problem, there's a ripple effect of outcomes that come after that. And the best leaders or the best chess masters think so many levels in advance that when everyone is reacting to each thing that happens to them, you're already 3, 4, 5 levels in advance. And if you want to be a really good disruptor, you want to be fantastic at social media, you want to be the best of your field, you want to be an amazing entrepreneur, you have to think multiple levels in advance. Meaning when I do this, what is everyone else going to do? And when they have these potential outcomes, what ripple effects are going to come after that? And that's the best thing I'm saying is like, if you guys want to do something that no one else is doing, you have to think like no one else is thinking.
Sure. Yeah. We were dealing with a similar sort of thing. Like in my company, my brand, we offer no questions asked, like exchanges, right? Because we just want the customer to be happy, right? And you can't resell something that someone's worn, at least not at our current level. Maybe down the line we wash it and we repackage it, whatever. But right now we just lose the cost of goods on that item. And so our initial problem is like, okay, we're losing money. How do we make a little bit of money back? Oh, let's charge like an up fee, like a couple dollars on each order, and that'll make up for it. That's only a temporary solution. The real solution behind the scenes that took a while for us to figure out, even though it's so simple in reality, is just like make sure we do a better job at sizing on guides, right? Convince people how to actually buy the right thing instead of trying to fix it after the fact, just prevent the problem from happening in the first place. But my initial thought was the first, like, okay, let's just charge a couple extra dollars.
Right.
And that'll cover the cost.
Exactly.
It doesn't actually fix the thing. So that's cool. I think that's I think that brings up a good point that a lot of people don't understand. Sometimes you have to really you have to really go back and see where the problem's coming from and stop it at the source, right?
Yeah, there's layers.
Yeah. Well, let's shift a little bit. Your social life now. Now you have success, even though you're really busy and you have 1,000 more things to do than when you first started. Do you go out at all? Do you even care? Like, do you just stay in and work all the time? I know I don't even really go out too much anymore.
Yeah.
What's that look like for you?
So I'm not a big partier. I'm a big foodie, so I love really, really good restaurants. That's like my favorite thing to do. I love eating really good restaurants with friends. For example, like go out, instead of like going to a club or a bar, they don't have too much of that here in Austin, but in like Los Angeles and Miami and New York, this is really big. You'll go eat dinner at like 9:30 at night. You'll drink, you'll have a late dinner, it turns into a bar. So you're having drinks and friends, but it's nothing crazy. So I love that. I love seeing good friends. I have a pretty close group that's all over the country that I'm good friends with. I try to align with as much people who, they don't have to be like me, but they have to be motivated, successful, going in the right way.
Ambitious in some sense.
Yeah, and like positive, right? And you know, it's like everyone that's, for example, like let's say tomorrow you're following doubles, which I wouldn't be surprised that happens. You said you're going viral right now.
Maybe it's because of this podcast.
Maybe because of this
Maybe
podcast,
they're like,
right?
damn, this guy's legit now. He's interviewing Graham Mitt.
But anyway, so like let's say it goes crazy, like that's amazing. I will be just as excited as you are. I would be hyped for you.
Yeah.
And so I love being around people who root for you, root for their friends, root for their families, and it's just contagious energy. So yeah, for sure. Like I try to always have fun. I'm a big traveler. So while I do travel for work, I always go do fun stuff. Go see sports, go see friends, go hang out. Just always try to have a good time and enjoy myself. Work always goes first.
Yeah.
But I don't believe in a balance being 50-50, right? There's some times where I'm like 99 work, 1 personal life, and then there's some I'm half and half. There's some days it's lighter than others. Yeah, just go with the flow. To me, like my work and my personal, they coexist. It's just my life.
Yeah.
It's not 2 alter egos or anything like that.
That's a good point. And because I think so many people want to be an entrepreneur because they want to be rich, or they want to be an entrepreneur because they think, oh, I get to have my own schedule. Like, and you are always working.
You'll always work less if you're an employee.
Yeah. And I was visiting my friends in San Diego the other day, and it's Sunday and they're watching football. And one of my boys is like, bro, can you put the computer down for a second, bro? Like, it's Sunday, we're watching the game. I was like, no, dude, this is how I make. He's like, you know how you were talking about how it must be so cool to make money from TikTok? Yeah, like that's why, because I'm working on the fucking weekends. But it's fun though. You enjoy it.
It's a game.
It is a game. It's literally a video game. Okay, that's a great question. I make a lot of videos about how you need to put down the controller once you turn 18. And I was the biggest fucking nerd when I was a little kid, man. Like, what was my game? I think I played Minecraft. It was like 8-9 hours a day. I was a loser. And I had so much fun doing that. Yeah. If anything, like I actually had just as much fun nerding out, yelling at a couple other kids across the country over TeamSpeak or whatever it was, than I did at a 1,500 person frat party with like Dombreski playing in our backyard. Like just as much fun, but it doesn't actually do anything for you. And so I make a lot of content about like, when you turn 18, just put the controller down unless you're really grinding already, unless you have something really good going on. And a lot of people got really upset. Same thing with weed. I also said like cut out smoking weed, at least until you have a good system in place.
I agree.
You're making money. And yeah, so you say you agree. Yeah, I think a lot of people get really offended by that. I'm curious why you think that.
Well, they're just triggered because that's how they operate. It's
yeah,
like, what?
It's like attacking their character or what?
Yeah, I mean, the 2 fastest sayings for a guy, like a normal masculine guy to cut out, to instantaneously change your life in 2 weeks, cut out porn, cut out video games, because they reward you for doing absolutely fucking nothing. So like if you're playing a game and you win and you can scream at people, curse them out from across the room, they're not going to punch you in the face. You do not get held accountable, and then you get immediate dopamine hits every time something good happens in that game. You're constantly being stimulated for doing absolutely no effort. You didn't have to fight and kill a person in like real life.
Yeah.
You didn't have to drive a real Formula 1 car like you're playing in a video games. And so you're getting rewarded for not doing it. Porn, you're getting stimulated like crazy. It's like the same, I've heard studies that it has a bigger effect on your brain than cocaine. the dopamine that hits your brain, it shocks your nervous system. So now you're getting rewarded sexually for not having to work out, make a multi-million-dollar company, be successful.
So you can actually get that hot girl.
So you can actually get that hot girl. Yeah. So you're getting constantly rewarded for doing nothing. So then when you pull those things away, all of a sudden, guys, I think people are so confused. Like, why is everyone depressed? Well, because their dopamine is so depleted because they're getting consistently rewarded for doing things that require zero effort. And so what happens is like I stopped watching porn so long, 4 or 5 years ago, right when I came back and I learned about all this stuff. I was never a big video game guy. And after about 30 days, you could just feel your testosterone through the roof. You could just feel it. And
are you saying you cut out like
everything,
like not just porn, but like
yes,
masturbation in general?
No fat,
okay.
Everything.
That's an interesting, yeah.
The reason
I've heard
why
people talk about that
is because it spikes your testosterone levels like crazy.
Yeah.
If you've heard of Nikola Tesla, like he never had a woman, which I couldn't do.
I did not know that actually.
Which I would never do.
He never had sex? Tesla?
To my knowledge, no.
Wow.
And so some of the best people, they like our instinct is to recreate and every stuff, but most men, they work way harder on getting women than they do on their success. And if they put that same energy of strategizing and figuring out how to get that girl, how to make all these girls like you into their business and their brand, every girl will want you. Dude,
I've said that exact, like word for word on multiple pieces of content. Like, and I get why.
Yeah.
What are we designed for? To recreate, right? You, as a man, like you are created over tens of thousands of years of evolution to only want to think about one thing. But like you said, if you can figure out a way to divert that, and honestly, I don't think some people are capable of it, then you can pretty much get everything you wanted. It's amazing. Like I know that I got cheated on once, right? Mm-hmm. And I told myself, a lot of guys like to sleep around after they got cheated on because you're craving attention, right? Your body just misses it like a drug. So you want to fill that void somehow. But I told myself, you know what? I'm not going to sleep with anyone. And I'm not even going to put a date on it. I'm just not going to do it until the option is like, I can't say no. Like, It's just the hottest girl ever, right? And it was only like 3 months. It was only like 3 months.
Okay, yeah.
But 3 months of going out, and I told myself, we're not bringing a girl home tonight, Lucas. I'm not going to snap anyone. I'm not going to say, what are you doing? Yep. I'm not going to say, what's your plan tonight? What pregame are you going to? I'm going to go out. And by doing that, I not only had a much better time with my friends,
right,
but I also went home feeling like a winner because I think a lot of guys will go out and the way they judge their night successful or a win or not is if they bring someone home.
Right.
Even like most of my friends in college were like that. That's why you're texting someone at 4 a.m, like when all the goblins are out, right?
Yeah.
So if you literally just like tell yourself no, just chill for 6 months. And I know, Patrick Bet David.
Yeah.
I think there was a video of him saying he cut out girls for an entire year.
He didn't have sex till he was a millionaire, I think.
Yeah. And so even though it sounds ridiculous and extreme, it's just forcing yourself to focus. I think
it forces yourself to focus, but just test it. Just back test what I'm saying. Your testosterone shoots through the roof, and we're energetic beings. If you've ever been to a funeral and you ever seen an open casket,
not that I can remember. I haven't been to a funeral probably since I was like 8 or 9.
I hope you don't have to go to one. But if you go to a funeral and you see an open casket, you know that person is not there.
Yeah.
It's weird to explain. Like you see them laying there, it is not them. It's almost like a mask at a Halloween costume. It's kind of weird.
I've never actually thought about that, but I get what you're saying.
It is, they are not there.
It's bizarre.
And I've seen them because I've experienced this year specifically, and I've seen them right before they've gone, and they are there. Even though they're not functioning, nothing's working, you can feel their energy heighten. We're spiritual beings. And so when you're in a peak place spiritually, your testosterone is through the roof. What you'll notice, and this is why that happened with you, is I started noticing this, and I would walk into bars and stuff, and I wouldn't give a shit. I was like, you're like, yeah, I can get like a girl if I want to, but I'm here to have fun with my friends. I'm not here. That's not the only thing I need. And they start gravitating to you. Not just women, but people they just notice you. They're like, hey, what do you do? What is this? And people will be drawn to you. And people can feel that energy, and it expands, and they can sense it.
It's like I like to look at it as like, because I completely agree with you. I look at it as if there's a green bulb above your head, and girls can just like if you're needy and if you're going out like, I need to get ass tonight, I need to sleep with someone, it's red. And you don't need to say anything. You don't even need to look at them. They just won't want to be near you. It's like they can sense it.
Right.
But I think that's great advice for young guys. I think there's so many guys out there that look at anyone online and they see someone who obviously has like money and a cool car and a cool watch and stuff like that. That's like the basic, most bland version of success. But I think a lot more young guys these days are starting to appreciate the people like you, right? Or the content creators like me that aren't that flashy or whatever, but we're just happy and we enjoy what we do and we're fulfilled, and they are trying to figure out how to get there, but they don't necessarily know where to start. I think by eliminating a lot of those like innate distractions, that's the perfect way to start, right? So get rid of porn, maybe even cut off girls if you have to for a little bit, just for a period of your life to focus, right? No more weed.
Don't reward yourself for bullshit.
Video games, yeah.
Like the best book, I think you probably read it, is Atomic Habits.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Amazing book, and it's very simple, and it talks about reward receptors, and your brain is so ancient, it's built to survive. And let's say you have a bunch of tasks to do all day, and you have like a list of 10. Each time you accomplish something on the list, you do a check mark. Or maybe like, let's say you had like some pins and you had 10 on this side. You just simply move a pin to this side and then to this side. And your brain gets a little bit of dopamine. And you just taught yourself that, oh, by doing these tasks and accomplishing my goals, we get rewarded. This is good. Let's say you broke the sales record for that month of your company and you don't reward yourself and you're tired and you're stressed and you're this. You're teaching your body that I put all this effort in to make this money. Why are we doing this? There's no reward. Yeah. So you need to go reward yourself with this amazing steak dinner or this quick weekend trip or these shoes that you wanted. And your brain's like, oh shit, me making more money is good.
That's great. That's something that I think a lot of wealthy people miss out on, is they're like, okay, more and more and more. And I've even found myself feeling like that in a way as well. Like I'll achieve some miles. I know when I first started my business, when I had my first $1,000 day, I'm like a senior in college. We sell $1,000 worth of shorts because that was our first product, and I'm fucking stoked, right?
Yeah.
And then, for probably 6 months ago, we had our first $10,000 day.
That's amazing.
And it felt great for 20 minutes. And then it was like, okay, now I need $10,000 days every day. Yeah. So I think I think a lot of people who typically are ambitious and are striving for, the stars, who end up hitting the moon or going further, you have to think in a sense of like, I'm never satisfied, but it's really important to reward yourself. Sure. That's kind of played into what I was asking earlier about like do you go out and stuff? Also, how do you spend your money? Like,
yeah. So I'm not a huge flashy person. Like I don't post. You've probably seen myself. I'm not posting like, hey guys, I swear I'm rich. Look at all this shit.
You could. I mean, bro, that's what I just want to interrupt real quick. I applaud you for that, because you could totally say, I'm Grant. I have 47 employees and I make this much and I'm 28 and I was here 3 years ago. And you could make probably $5 million this year selling a course, but you don't, because it's quick money. It's not long money.
It's like, I want people to like truly respect me for me. And I don't think it's like a problem to show things.
Yeah.
And like, this is my life, but not to get attention. It's just not my style. Maybe I'll start incorporating a little bit more because I'll have no choice because it's my life, but not to get attention. But yeah, I mean, it's just, being authentic and everything is just, it's key for sure.
Is there anyone that stands out in your mind, like a figure in your life, maybe personally, or maybe you haven't even met them? Maybe like a Gary Vee. I know you brought him up earlier, but someone that you just have the utmost respect for. And if anything, maybe you don't want to like maybe they're not your hero, or maybe you don't want to be exactly like them, but someone who is the person in your mind that you have the most respect for?
I can't pick one person because, one thing that I did remember, I was mentioning that when I was in Brooklyn and I would go to Barnes and Noble and just sit there and read for like a year straight, and I would read for 2-3 hours a day. I kind of just try to say, like, who are the best people that I could take all of the way they think, the way they operate, their skill sets, and apply them to myself as much as possible. One person I really, really like, and I've been extremely interested in reading all of his stuff, is Ray Dalio.
Nice. Very,
very interesting thinker. He built the largest hedge fund in the world, Bridgewater Associates, and he wrote the book Principles, which is fantastic. And then,
I have it. I haven't started yet, but it's on my shelf.
At least, like, even if you don't, like, go watch on YouTube. There's a animated version that's 40 minutes that basically breaks down the whole book. It's fantastic. And then also another book called Changing of the World Orders, which talks about all of the conflict that's happening right now between China, Russia, the EU, America, and everything like that. And as I read that book about a year and a half ago, whenever it was, and watching all the things that are playing out right now, foreign policy wise, it like makes so much sense, and it was based off what he was talking about. So I love Ray Dalio. Elon Musk is insane. I'm not an Elon Musk. Yeah. No one is.
But you can have like a sense of admiration for him for sure.
Utmost respect, but I love listening to him talk because it makes me realize how small I think. Anytime, and that's one thing I always try to do, is when you're asking me about like who do I study and everything like that, is I always try to me, my favorite thing to feel is realizing I'm not as good as I thought I was. It's just it's a beautiful experience to me.
That's dope.
I love meeting someone that's kicking my ass so bad that I'm like, what the hell have I been doing for the past 2 years? And they're a normal person. There's someone in Houston that he owns the Rockets. He owns, probably you've ate at his restaurant 100 times and you have no idea. And he's worth about $10 billion. And I heard him speaking. And anytime I have a problem, like we were talking about all the different problems of running a business, and we're scaling, this happened, that happened, I try to go listen to someone that's doing 100 times or 10 times or whatever more than me, and then their problems is bigger. And he was giving this speech, and he goes, man, my payroll, he was talking about when COVID happened and the collapse and everything shut down, and he has hospitality, so everything was shut down overnight.
Is this the Panda Express guy?
No, that guy's a BSO. Yeah. He owns Landry's, Tillman Fertitta.
Okay.
And he said, my payroll is $100 million. Every 2 weeks, his payroll.
Every 2 weeks?
Every 2 weeks, his payroll.
Yeah.
Like all of his employees.
Yeah.
I got 47 employees. I'm a fucking loser.
Yeah, no, it's a good way to
I suck to the highest level. This guy has $100 million bill every 2 weeks that he has to pay.
And that's one of the bills.
That's not the AC, the utilities, the ops, the tech. No, just that's $100 million. And I'm like, shit. And he starts talking about all these things, and it just expands my thinking. I go, man, what the hell am I doing? How do I do this better? How do I adjust this problem? So he's quite interesting. Elon Musk is awesome. Psychologically and kind of the way of thinking when it comes to people, Tony Robbins is pretty cool. Although, but I haven't been studying him lately. I studied him heavily in college.
He's a great first introduction to self-help person, in my opinion. There's different characters that don't make sense to start watching, paying attention to until you get a better understanding, just like there's better books for an introduction, right? But yeah, I'd say he's like a very good self-help, I don't know where to start type person, get my life in order type guy. And then as you get deeper and deeper, Ray Dalio is probably like maybe step 2 or 3. But yeah, those are all great people. I think that's great. And I really like how you touched on that. I think one of the biggest problems these days is people are they love being in the small fishbowl. They're unwilling to put themselves around people who will make them feel small. Right. And I think actually another way to start, you could say, like this journey towards success or whatever, I think, is just be around different people. So many people have the same friends, the same friend group their entire life. how are you gonna the odds that you and your group of friends from high school are gonna all make it together? It's not gonna happen.
Right.
Like it's never happened, right? It just there's a small subset of people that are high performers, that are that ambitious, that get that lucky, the luck you need to succeed, and it's not going to be everyone. You need to be willing to surround yourself with better players. And the example I always give is like, if you're a high school football player and you really want to play in college or baseball, soccer, whatever, you're not going to be practicing with your high school teammates over the summer. You're not going to be listening to only your coach. You're going to be going to camps, maybe in different cities, even different states, right? You're going to be, if you have the resources, if you have the resources, you're going to be hiring like a professional coach to teach you some things that you wouldn't learn from the high school math teacher who coaches on the side, right? So you need to surround yourself with people that are going to challenge you if you want to get there yourself. And I think a lot of people just, I don't know, maybe they know that and they're not comfortable with it, or they don't want to feel challenged. Who knows?
Yeah, they're just kind of worried. And the one thing I've noticed is even if you take those people, I've had friends that, I have one of my best friends that he got his master's degree. Now he works at Amazon. He's absolutely crushing it. And I was going to go to this year. We went to Europe for my birthday, and he was like, yeah, I'm down to go. And he was like one of my best friends since high school. Super cool, super successful. But he's also the last couple of years been in college. He's still kind of stayed at home, and he's just now moving into Houston, but he's killing it, right? But he's just getting into his stuff. And after him going to Europe and seeing all this stuff in the world, I mean, it just took one time, and he's just like, what the fuck? This is out here.
Yeah.
He met a girl in Spain and was like, dude, I'm never leaving. I'm moving here. I'm trying to move to Spain. And so when you see that next level of what's possible in life, business-wise, financially, people, I don't care who you are, it makes you think a little bit different. And the people that say, oh, it doesn't matter about money, I don't care about this, they haven't experienced it.
Yeah.
You get in a Rolls Royce once, you're going to go, well, this is kind of nice. You fly first class once, you're going to go, wait, how would I do this every time?
Or on a private jet.
You ever
been on a private jet?
No.
It's crazy. I went on my one of my best friends. His dad is the CEO of 3M. You know 3M,
shit.
right? Massive.
Yeah.
And he used to be the CEO of what was it? Zimmer Biomet.
Wow.
Huge medical device company.
Yeah.
And we got to go on his private jet. I couldn't even enjoy it. I was sitting there, all my friends are like taking pictures, like drinking the champagne, eating Chick-fil-A, because that's the food we brought on it.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there the whole time like, if this is the last time that I ever get to be on one of these, I
am a failure.
That's exactly what I thought. I was like, I fucking need this. Maybe I don't need to own one. Maybe I'll just rent it, but I need this.
But just when you experience it, it changed your whole thought.
Yeah, I just can't imagine like experiencing something once and saying like, that's enough. That's okay.
It's like I have a friend that her grandpa sold a company. So she was like lived in a normal suburban house, $300,000. And then suddenly I get word like 7th, 8th grade that this girl is building an entire street compound. And I'm like, wait, what? Like her? And her parents did fine. I think they had like solid jobs, but nothing crazy. Like, yeah, her grandpa just sold a oil and gas company for like $10 billion.
Wow.
And so she's going to get a lot of money when she's 30. I won't say how much. But anyways, they have, I believe, 2 jets. I don't know if it's a Falcon or a Gulfstream. Mm-hmm. And the yearly gas that they spend to operate that plane, so they bought the plane $45-50 million cash, but just to operate it every single year costs $3 million.
Oh, I bet.
So just the gas is $3 million. And you think about like all these employees and what my payroll is, and you start realizing, damn, I suck.
Those are, really.
And it's beautiful to hear.
It is beautiful to hear. It's really, I feel like it's exciting.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to get there if you can't understand
that it's a thing.
That it's a thing. Yeah. So I think it's great. Well, I think that's a great way to like kind of start to close it off. I guess the last question I want to ask here is, for anyone out there watching who sees you and they're like, I want to do what that guy's doing, right? What do you think? I guess we already covered the first step, huh? First step would be get your health in order, right? Health in order, get rid of the distractions. Well, I guess let's talk about what's next for Grant Mitt. What's your 1-year plan? What are the short-term goals right now? in your business, personal life, whatever? Are you trying to get better at dancing, whatever? And then what's like, where do you want to be 10
Become
years
a
from
TikTok
now? 15 years
dancing
from now?
star.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to say everything, but I'll say some. I like kind of just showing people and
Sure.
keeping it low key. The biggest challenge that I'm facing right now that I'm trying to conquer is I built an 8-figure company. Scaling from that to $100 million business it's like changing religions. Like whatever worked to get there, it is not going to work to get to that 9-figure level.
Yeah.
It takes different people, takes more capital, takes more resources, it takes different ways of doing things.
Different systems. Yeah.
Everything. And so this whole year has been just like a constant learning curve of trying to figure that out. And so the next 2 years, my goal is to get to that level, to get the solar company to that level. That's my main focus. Brand wise, I just feel weird saying how many followers and stuff like that. I would say is like, let's just say a bigger audience than I do now, impacting and helping more people than I do now. Doing the podcast and stuff has been really cool. And I'm starting to, I think I mentioned you, I'm about to start having guests on, and I waited a long time. I waited 2 years to have guests on. And because I didn't want to have it until it was just, we were talking about this. Do you have just people on as you grow? Do you wait till then? There's no right way. Both ways worked. I mean, Joe Rogan would have anybody on it when he was starting out. But I want to see the podcast become a top 5 business podcast in the United States. Consistent.
Fuck yeah.
Because I know if we do that, we're going to really, really help a lot of people. Like we need entrepreneurs and young people like you that's just like, hey guys, like this is me figuring it out. What's cool is like you already are figuring it out, but eventually you're going to really, really, really figure it out to where where people are like, holy shit. It's going to get to that level.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. First of all, I think that's awesome. I think those are great goals, but you'll be there sooner than you think for sure. And I think that's perfect. I also find it a little interesting how I kind of operate on a different mindset of like, you're kind of like you just said, let me show you what I can do. I'm the exact opposite. And I tell everyone what I'm going to do before it happens to hold myself accountable.
So I tell the close people around me.
Okay, that's good.
So I won't say it on a podcast where everyone can hear it. Unless it's something that they heavily needed to be included in. Mm-hmm. But my brother, my closest friends, my mom, my dad, my closest confidants, like people that are like for Grant, like if I did something crazy, they would still defend me. Like they're for me. They know pretty much everything down to the T.
Cool.
And
the whole plan and everything.
I talk about it every day of my life. Everyone knows it's right and like nonstop what we're doing. Okay, we got to do this. We got to do this. Like everything that's happening now was planned.
That's great that you're at a level with them relationship wise where you can explain that to them. And I'm sure not only they can give you constructive criticism or any sort of, even if it's just like a little bit of reassurance, but I'm sure that also gets them really excited. I could only imagine like, I'm the only entrepreneur in my family, pretty much. I could only imagine how cool it would be to like listen to my little brother or my son one day saying like, yeah, dad, like, we're going to try and hit 100 million this year.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Right. So I think that's awesome.
And hear the problems and everything.
Yeah.
So it's cool. And it makes them think big. And eventually once they see you start hitting targets,
they know you can do it.
And what's cool is they start going, wait, what could I do?
That's a great way to finish it off, because I'm sure same way with you. Like when you are ambitious yourself, you want everyone around you to succeed too. You don't want to be rich at the top of the mountain by yourself. That fucking sucks, right? And I think a lot of people say like entrepreneurship is lonely, or it's lonely at the top. I think maybe in some ways, but it's a lot better. It's not only easier to climb the mountain with a group of people, but it's a lot more fun, and it's so much more fulfilling and enjoyable to be up there with a group looking at the view instead of by yourself.
Yeah, agreed.
And so that brings up the question of like, how do you get people around you to want to go for that too? How do you convince people to go on that journey with you to make that climb? And I used to be the guy that was like trying to slap my friends into shape, like trying to guilt my parents into, you guys say you hate your job, why do you still work there? Or you say you're not happy with your weight, like why don't you go to the gym? And I was very hardcore actually. And I think it like really like affected a lot of my relationships because I'm a pretty like intense person when it comes to that stuff. And one day I realized like, you know what? You can't force anyone to do anything. Maybe the best thing to do to encourage and inspire everyone around me is just work on myself as much as possible. And hopefully I'll be like, if he can do it, I can do it.
Just be the light.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. If you win, you're successful and they know you and they've seen your ups and downs and everything, they're going to start thinking a little bit different.
They've seen you as the loser at the bottom. They're like, if he can do it, I can do it.
They're like, oh my God, this is crazy. And then they believe in themselves. So cool.
Oh, yeah. Well, bro, thanks so much for coming on. This has been great. Grant Mitt Group, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll put all of his socials in the description below. Cool. Leave a like, comment, follow all his stuff, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Cool. Thank you, brother. Thanks for having me.